So, Chloe, for anyone that doesn't know who you are, you're the happiness helper, a retired life coach who's now back in the corporate world. So, can you tell us a bit about what that journey has looked like for you?
Yeah. So I call myself a retired life coach just because I don't do it anymore. No, I got my hat. Obviously not retired. So when I left school, I became a project manager, and it's a project management that I dipped out of to start my coaching business when I was lucky enough to work with you. And yeah, that lasted for a couple of years that I'll obviously be talking you through, which I absolutely loved. It was, yeah, an amazing time in my life, but definitely full of ups and downs that we'll talk through. And then now, yeah, I am back in corporate life, and that's been a journey in itself, getting back into the corporate way of thinking and still feeling like I have that purpose in coaching, but not sure if or when I'll return to it.
Yes. Okay. So maybe it'd be worthwhile you telling us a little bit about kind of why you left
That's all.
coaching.
So I left coaching um, because it had got too. I became reliant on it for income, basically. And the whole reason I wanted to become a life coach is because I wanted to help people be happier. So actually stepping back into the journey, I actually did a mission statement, which I know really resonated with you when I was on a personal development course. And in that personal development course, it's a great activity actually that I'd recommend for anybody listening, where you get in the mind of yourself as an 80-year-old and you're looking back on your life, and it really highlights what's important to you, like forgetting, what you're focusing on week, getting to-do list crossed off, and I must do this, and worrying about that, and actually just thinking what's important in my life, what am I going to be looking back on and thinking that's how I wanted to live. And it was a free writing exercise for like 6 minutes, or pen to paper, and you just don't stop writing what you want from your life, who you want to be, like the kind of legacy you want to leave and stuff. And it came up about 6 times that I wanted to help people be happier. Like I wanted people to see the value they bring to other people, to this life that they've got, and make the most of it. And that's what made me step away from corporate life. So then when you then marry that with having a business and it's supporting you financially,
Yeah.
that's what made me step away. I didn't want to become a stressed life coach that that was like constantly seeking clients. Basically, I was doing it because I wanted to help people be happy, but not at the detriment, to be honest, of my happiness. Is only so far I wanted to go with that. So when I felt like there was a decline, because my business did boom, it was around lockdown, sorry, that I started my business and had that great period. There was a decline, people going back to work, they had less spare money, they weren't thinking about what they wanted in life, they weren't as reflective, they didn't have time to think as much. So it was a lot harder to get clients, and yeah, I didn't want to become in a stress, and that's why I decided to step away.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point that you've said there, because as we said, I worked with you in lockdown, and although I still very much live by some of the stuff that we did together, I think now that we're out of lockdown and life's picked back up again, it is really hard to stay in that state of reflection and, living by your mission statement, because sometimes life can just take over, can't it?
100%.
That's interesting that you started in lockdown, and maybe they were a bit more, business were maybe a bit more lucrative then.
And time to think, because I do think, I know we'll get a bit more into what coaching's all about, but I think it is giving people that time to think. People are allocating time in their days, weeks, even months, to just have that time where they're thinking, am I living life how I want to be living it? Am I focusing on the things I want to be focusing on? Am I giving energy to the things I want to be giving energy to? So without that time to think, how are you going to make any changes, or how are you going to acknowledge, even if you are doing everything you want to be doing, how are you going to acknowledge that actually I'm living in a way that I want to be without that reflection?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start simple. How would you define coaching to people who might not know what it really is?
So coaching is all about achieving goals. So I haven't looked up the exact definition, but I'm sure in any remit, because there's coaches for all kinds of things. I was a life coach, but you've got coaching, you know, you can hear about it more mainstream for sports and things like that to help you achieve those goals. It's someone there to hold you accountable to achieve goals, whatever they may be. Slightly different in life coaching, that part, especially of the program I designed through my life coaching, was to identify what those goals are. It's not generally, it wasn't people coming to me. There was some instances of that, but it wasn't generally people coming to me with well-defined goals. It was getting clarity on what those goals actually are.
Yeah.
And although I say goals, as you'll find, and this will probably speak to you as well, Sal, that it's not necessarily goals, it's intention or how you want to live or be or behave, rather than goals of, I want to, write a book or run a marathon. It's more of identifying those kinds of things, how you want to live your life,
Yeah.
and then how do you make that happen?
Yeah, that's something that I actually spoke about in one of my recent journaling sessions, like the difference between goals and intentions. And a goal is very much like outward focused, and it's something we want to physically achieve, something tangible, whereas intentions are more like feelings, how things make us feel and what we, like you say, actually want from our lives. So yeah, I think that's a really important distinction there. So in your experience, what kinds of clients or issues are better suited to coaching rather than therapy and vice versa?
So it's an important one to differentiate, isn't it, between the therapy and the coaching. And I tend to just kind of from a top level, obviously you can talk more on the therapy side, but I think of therapy as its primary goal being improving your mental health. Whereas with the life coaching, it's more that growth or getting more. You wouldn't necessarily feel you have an issue as such. It might not present itself in that way, but that feeling of I'm not reaching my potential or I'm not feeling fulfilled is kind of that like that desire for more rather than framing it as an issue.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So did you find you got a lot of people that were maybe feeling a bit lost or like stuck?
Want more direction,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, it was that feeling of what is that feeling of more, and a lot of it is being able to let go of things that they think they might want, or especially now with the rise of social media, all these things you think are possible, being in the Olympics, running a marathon, writing a book, start your own business, but then being, a millionaire as a corporate person, whatever it may be. All these things seem like they could all be your reality. Well, obviously, all those people have just focused on that independent thing. No one's doing all of those things. Or probably some people, but it's like
It
identifying.
feels like that now, though, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, with social media, that everybody's achieving everything and we're, doing it all.
100%. And you're just seeing that one aspect of that achievement and not seeing what goes on behind it. And even, are they happy? Are they content? Doing to change happiness and contentment, because I will acknowledge at this point, even though I was the happiness of, but
Yeah.
we're not happy all the time. That's not how life works. In any remit, I'll talk about ups and downs with coaching through this, but there's ups and downs in life, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's definitely no expectation, or shouldn't be. If anyone's listening thinking they should be happy all the time, then maybe drop that. But that contentment, I'm interchanging with the word happiness of, have I got that contentment? Am I happy with how I am living my life rather than feeling happy all the time?
Yeah. I like that. Thank you. So yeah, I think in terms of the type of people that are suited for therapy, I agree with you that it is a focus on improving your mental health, but also it doesn't need to be that. I think therapy can also sometimes feel light and can feel future focused as well as past focused. Um, so I use NLP, which is kind of is a mixture of coaching and therapy, really. We're going to look at your past, your present, and your future. Because I think sometimes in lostness and stuckness as well, there can be some, past stuff kind of linked in with that. Um, I think it's really hard for it to be like black and white. It's one or the other. Um, so yeah, I think therapy is improving your mental health, but also it's all that stuff that you just said as well. But I think if you're wondering whether to go for coaching or therapy, I think therapy is probably better suited if you've got more kind of underlying stuff, maybe some trauma, there's maybe been some distress, you're really struggling to move forward with things, you feel kind of stuck in the present or the past. I mean, we were chatting earlier about some people that you had to turn away from coaching because they weren't ready.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because I think that's really important to say that if you feel, if anything that you've just said is resonating with people listening, that if you feel that way, that yeah, maybe therapy is the right thing for me to try that first. Because the worst thing in a way you could do is then start coaching and become a coaching client, sorry, because you will struggle to act. You will struggle to achieve those goals or work towards your goals because of that stuff, I guess, that needs resolving. And actually, it can make things worse because it can become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy that you can't do things, you can't move forward, and that can actually deteriorate your mental health and the way you feel about yourself because you're not able to move forward. So getting that resolution sooner definitely helps. If that's somewhere you feel like you are. And I wanted to add, I can remember what was there now. Oh, with the differentiation between therapy and coaching with yourself, for example. So having that as like a private service, you're more able to guide to what you want as a client to get out of those sessions more so than I guess in the public sector where you'd be seeking therapy. Right? If someone came to you, you'd more be able to guide them to what it is they wanted to achieve from those therapy sessions.
Yeah, so when you go through the NHS, you don't pick a therapist because you resonate with the therapist. And it might be that you're directed to like CBT or counselling or something like that. And it's not always really what you need. And with the NHS, it's kind of if you're in CBT, you can only do CBT. There's not like other branches, whereas like private therapy, usually your therapist is trained in a few different things and you can kind of go off in different directions and it's not as like rigid. Something I did want to say is for anybody that is in that position of, setting goals and not being able to achieve them, that it is entirely untrue that you cannot do things and you're not capable. It's because of what you've experienced and because of your trauma or any like distress that you're in that's preventing that. It's not true, but your brain's telling you it is. And that's what therapy will help get you out of. You're not thinking you're not capable. Really.
Yeah, seek the help.
Yeah, but it's untrue. You isn't in you in that moment. It feels so true and it feels like it's, the absolute gospel, but it is not. And I think it's recognizing that into that, our beliefs and thoughts aren't always correct. Very often are not. Absolutely. Yeah, I just thought it might be important just to share that. Really. I love that. So let's talk about results and transformation. When coaching's done well, what are the core outcomes people tend to get? Things like mission statements, goal setting, or shifting limiting beliefs. What is it that people tend to draw from?
It, to be honest, it does depend, like you say, on the coach, not even just how good they are, but what they're focused on or what their program looks like. So I would say if anyone's listening wanting to explore it, then to actually look more for um, what they resonate with or what a coach would offer. What I offered coaching wise, a lot of it was looking at those areas you just mentioned there. So in terms of identifying, my program started with getting clarity on what it is you want, as I mentioned, the mission statement, and Sal did that. We are identifying what our priorities are, what we want in life, etc. But then being able to break down that what is it that I need to achieve to make that happen, and what beliefs do I need to overcome that are limiting me or constraining the way I think or the potential I think I could achieve or the actions I could do that I think I can't because I believe certain things about myself. Might not even be that there's a behaviour that needs to change, just the way that you are thinking about yourself that's making you feel bad about yourself that isn't actually true. So breaking down those beliefs that are negatively impacting you to give yourself, well, the way we work through them is giving yourself evidence of why they're not true. And if that evidence isn't there, then how we can create that evidence to make it not true. Because as you say, there's always that help that can get you to that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, support out there, and even if it might not feel like there's evidence right now, we can kinda, yeah, work towards that and create it.
Definitely.
Because I said when coaching is done well, how do how do you think you'd identify someone as, you know, a good coach, a coach worth having? Because it does feel like a bit of a grey area, really.
I think it's a really hard question to answer that on the surface of it from what they might present themselves like online. The best way I fundamentally believe will be through recommendation, or really if you don't know someone that can recommend one, that you are really tapping into their testimonials and what they're sharing and really seeing, do I have an affinity or can I relate to this person that's giving that testimonial in terms of where they were and where they got to, and is that something that I want? I think outside of that can become very superficial and anyone could say anything to an extent. So I do really believe in recommendation with people having good experiences. I think that's the best way to go about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you trained as a life coach, an accredited life coach. Do you think it's important to also look for accreditation and some proof of like certification and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with everyone, as you'll know, it's completely unregulated industry with life coaching. So having that to kind of prove that you've been through the process is absolutely important and would be important to clients as well for the, knowing that they've got that accreditation.
Yeah.
And to make sure that you've been through everything properly, because we've said there can be cowboys online that can just say whatever they want, and that does make it a bit of a dangerous space to be in. So I think with having that, there's no denying that you've been through the proper protocols, and because you're dealing with people and thoughts, and you know people share with me things that they wouldn't share with anybody else. So that needs to be a very sacred space for people.
Absolutely, yeah. Are there particular life stages or transition that coaching really supports, like a career change or returning to work, maybe after having a baby or something, or um, redesigning your life direction?
I think there's loads of reasons why someone might want a coach, and it might not fit into any particular bracket. But I would say if there is a particular pivotal point that you are wanting a coach for, so for example, a career change coach is a really good example. They exist within themselves, and I would advise anyone wanting to change career to go to a career coach because they will have the tools dedicated and focused to that career change, and a roadmap to basically uncover what it is you want and help you work towards getting there. What I found with my coaching, it was a lot more generic. I would have people from very different phases of their life. It's interesting there what you said about like maybe returning to work or having a baby. I think having a baby actually is such a massive life transition for your self-identity and kind of that rediscovery of I'll never be the same again, but who am I? Whilst also going through the difficulties that come with having a newborn and the tiredness and the things that come with that, as well as having this amazing thing that you're there looking after and becomes so much of your purpose. I think, balancing all that
Yeah.
into something and making sense of it to yourself, that interestingly did become a thing where I did have quite a few, new mums that wanted to get that kind of focus and not feeling lost in this like new identity they were trying to identify. But yeah, I'd seen it through all sorts, different stages of life, so I couldn't.
Yeah, like pinpoint. I do think that's interesting though, that there's like specific coaches for specific things. I think there also is with therapy, but I think it's a little bit harder to define in therapy because there's not always like clear definitions of like what is CBT, what is counseling, like what is grief therapy, like what those things kind of consist of. I think it can be a little bit harder to nail down with therapy what it is that you want. And hopefully through this podcast, I'm going to share a bit of that with you guys, like what CBT is and what counseling is and what coaching is, so that you can make better informed choices on helping yourself. I did actually do coaching with you as a new mother, and I think it looks very different for everybody. I think parenting actually hit me a bit later on. Like when Betsy got to about 2 or 3 and started talking, and I was like, wow, this is intense. But when she were a newborn, I absolutely loved the newborn days. I mean, I love it now, all for different reasons, but I very much soaked up the newborn days, and it was in lockdown, and my partner was off at the time, and we had so much time in that space, and it changed my priorities, but in a different way. Like I now have this child that's now my absolute priority, and fitting that into my life, because a lot of what we worked together on was a balance between work and life, and me getting that time with Betsy now, because my life was previous to lockdown all work. I used to work late nights, long days, and going through coaching in a different way, becoming a mother of like, okay, now I want to find balance in my life and be with this little one because this is now my priority. That could look very different for like new mums, couldn't it? For some people it might feel really difficult, tiredness and feeling lost and adapting to roles and things.
I think everybody's so different.
So yeah, absolutely. Okay, so when clients commit to the process, what kind of long-term ripple effects do you tend to see in their lives?
Some make podcasts, but I think be on. I like to think, well, a lot of the feedback that came with it was this, like, being able to, like, I guess, focus their energy on the things that are important to them and knowing what they are and being grateful for those things and acknowledging that. One thing I've not talked about is naturally we all have a negative bias. Our brains are designed to survive and not thrive and be happy. And we're constantly looking for that, that threat or that negative source that we need to focus on and resolve. Whereas we're in a life that actually very comfortable now, like a lot of us are privileged to have food on the table and not worry about the basic needs, where we're wanting that bit more from life. But that can feel overwhelming, as we know that, you could want everything, but actually what is it that's important to you and where do you want to put that energy? And so I think that's the biggest thing, that people have been able to find more contentment by dropping a lot of the expectations, where you think of coaching as getting those goals, where actually a lot of it is about letting go of things that aren't actually important to you, to give space and energy and time for the things and relationships
Yeah.
that are important in your life.
I do feel like a lot of the things that we did together have rippled into my future for sure. Uh, is there like, did you do like a certain length of time or anything for it to kind of? I think there's like a thing that's like something like 90 days where like lasting change actually happens.
So so it's 66 days for a habit to be created. So I did my programs over 8 weeks, just over 8 weeks, I think it was. Where we covered like a different topic each week, but it's to instill those behaviours over that
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's so lovely as well, because I think that indicates that this like a genuine want to help people, that it's not a money making thing, like, "Oh, I'll do it so long and then you can come back." It's like you've done this course and then, I mean, I'd love to do the Craft Accelerator again, but there's kind of not so much need to. I mean, it'd be great to refresh on things, but like I say, a lot of things have stuck and lasted.
I love that. And I think that's important to acknowledge as well from a coaching perspective. And there is an end point. And I think there can be somewhere it's this continued, that is a nice to have. And I'm not saying you wouldn't continue to get benefits from having life coaching.
Yeah.
But that was important for me, that someone was coming, they were being served in that way, and then they were leaving me. But then I've been free. And as we mentioned before about the business, then obviously from a business perspective, you're needing clients and more clients. More clients.
It's not a great business model.
It's not the most great business
Very
model,
heartless.
but it's important. Yeah, definitely.
Which you want from a coach or therapist, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Want to get the results and leave.
Yeah. I'd say the same with therapy as well. Very often it comes, I mean, some people can be in therapy for years, but also it can come to a point where there's not much more you can gain, and then there needs to be a break and some time away from it, really. Or maybe it's time for a different therapist with a different approach that can help you see things in a different light. Yeah. So now that you're back in corporate life, do you see yourself ever returning to coaching or maybe blending both those worlds together?
Leading question there, though. I would love to return to it at some point in some form. And when you said there about the blend, I see the need for it in corporate world so more. Men and women that are just so focused, it becomes all consuming, just like your own business, or, climbing the corporate ladder, that there is blind spots. And, I've known a lot of, senior leaders really in my time look back and think they would have done things differently. So I would really like to interject something at some point where I'm getting those people earlier on to really do that assessment, so they don't feel like, they get way down the line, they're looking back at 80 thinking they wish you'd have done things differently when it's too late. So never say never, but there's no plan.
Oh, I'd love to have you back. Yeah, I feel like the world's a better place with the happiness helper in it. When you and I worked together in lockdown, we created my mission statement and worked through limiting beliefs. And I remember feeling so aligned, like genuinely. I look back on that time with great fondness, actually. And I felt really clear on like what mattered most. Could you talk a bit more about that process, what you noticed changing in me, and what tends to shift for clients when they do that kind of deep?
But you would describe yourself, wouldn't you, of having more self-esteem when James met you, where you had a lot of these beliefs that, as we found out, were just absolutely not true, and founded on maybe something, but were not reality. And we talked about, your brain's not always right, your thoughts aren't always correct, and we were able to break those down. And I think that was like a massive stage for you in like, I am capable of so much. Like, why have I been thinking that I'm not? So it was this kind of feeling of can do anything I want to put my mind to, but then there was that second stage of, I want to do everything, I can do everything. And one thing that really sticks in my mind was your belief of being bad at maths. Which you still say I'm still bad at maths, and that could be the truth. But it was, well, I could get good at maths. You know, my brother's a maths teacher, so I could get him to help me. I said, well, you know, we tapped into that. Like, is that a priority with all this other stuff? Well, absolutely not. So we were able to let go of that with a lot of other things, but that one really sticks in my mind that was something, you know, you were putting yourself down for. Not necessarily incorrect. It might be right that you're not the best at math, but did it matter? Did it matter in your life? Did it matter enough to put your energy to it to improve it? You know, was that part of what you wanted in your life, your goals, etc.? No, it wasn't. So you were able to let go of that. And we had quite a few where you were just able to drop those and then just focus on the ones that were important.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really magical of me to do everything. And we said, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Yeah. And that really stays with me. That's a really nice thing. Like I say, coaching, you think about achieving goals, but actually it is being able to let go of things that don't matter, because we've only got so much time and energy and effort to give to things in this life, you know, every day, every week, every month. So to make sure that we do that intentionally. Yeah, you definitely did that. I still have to do that.
I think that's where getting clear on your priorities kind of blends with that as well, doesn't it? When we know what we want and where we're going and how we want to spend our time, we can look at our goals list and be like, okay, well, maybe that's not for right now. It's like never say never, but that maybe that's not for this kind of season or phase in my life. Maybe it's something to come back to later.
Yeah.
Or like with the maths thing, something we just go, okay, maybe I'm not great at that, and that's fine.
Don't need to talk that for
Yeah, yeah. We don't need maths for a therapist or counsellor, do we?
Exactly.
Okay, so I think this conversation will really resonate with someone who's been curious about coaching, or even those of us in a wellbeing space who felt a pull between purpose and practicality. If someone listening is considering working with a coach or even training to become one, what would you want them to know?
So, working with a coach, I would say have an open mind, but you need to be ready to commit to it. You know, it is work. And I think some people can go into this, you know, think they can pay the money and then they'll get the results and not realise that, you know, there is work involved, both in the sessions and outside of the sessions to really achieve what it is that you want. You know, with my program, we have worksheets and things like that to be doing outside the session, or would set little tasks for you to do through the week. So I'd just go into it with an open mind, but ready to commit to it. If you're thinking about starting coaching, I would say kind of the same goes with an open mind, but be prepared. You know, set the expectation early that it's not going to be this upward trajectory. There will be ups and downs, but there's a lot of, you know, joy to come from helping other people. Which, I still look back on that with such,
So it's such a privilege, isn't it, to kind of hold that space and be with some of that stuff that's actually really vulnerable for people.
absolutely.
Such an honor. Yeah. Okay. Where can people find you if they'd like to reconnect or follow your work online?
I am still on Instagram as the Happiness Helper, so you can find me there. I do have a private account now because I just don't want to be kind of publicly available to people. I keep it more of a sacred space. So I am still there. Feel free to follow me, and I will share the odd bit every now and again.
Yeah, you do, don't you? Pop up every now and again. So if there's anybody like in the corporate world that might be looking for a coach to come into your business and help out, would that be something that someone could get in touch with?
No job getting me work, so yeah, feel free to drop me.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Chloe. I really appreciate your time and all your wisdom that you've shared today. And it's been just so lovely to chat and catch up. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome anytime.